Top stuff. I'll get cracking. Right, so evening all, and thanks very much for joining our webinar tonight to go through a number of points. We've got quite a lot to get through, so it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour this evening, all things sort of impacting club life, approaching the 2021 season that we're all excited for, especially considering the circumstances over the last 12 months or so. So I'll introduce the team for tonight's call. For those that don't know me, I'm Sam Rose, Head of Cricket Development at Cricket East. We've also got Brad and Will, our club and community managers, and Damian Redpath, who is our Women and Girls Participation Manager. At some point, I'll be introducing Graham Simpson as well, who's joining us this evening from Team Beds and Luton to talk to us about funding. So without further ado, we'll crack on. Just a bit of housekeeping. If we can all just, like I mentioned, just keep ourselves on mute throughout the call so that we don't get any background noise. In the chat box, if you can pop your name and the club that you're representing in, just to give us an idea of who we've engaged with this evening, that would be really helpful. As we go through the call, if you have any questions, because we're short on time this evening, we probably won't have enough time to answer them all, if any, at the end. So ideally, if you can pop any questions you've got in the chat box, along with your name, your club and your email address, then one of the team will be able to get back to you after the call to hopefully be able to answer any questions that you might have. As you can see, we've got the agenda in front of us, and that's the topics that we're going to be focusing on this evening. We'll also be sharing the recording and the slide deck as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so the eagerly anticipated news about return to cricket. We've at this stage not had anything through from the ECB, but we are waiting for that in the coming weeks. The government are planning to make an announcement on the week commencing 22nd of March, or as close to that as possible, hopefully, to update us on return to cricket, basically, and the guidelines and restrictions that might be in place. Essential grounds maintenance can take place, so crack on with that. Make sure that you're safe, make sure that you're following social distancing and all of the other guidelines that are in place and have been in place throughout the lockdown. But other than that, we are positive about the 2021 season, albeit with potentially some similar restrictions at the start of the season and perhaps through to the middle of it, depending on whatever happens over the coming months and the many variables that we've all learned to live with, that we have to adapt to as we go. So yeah, next slide please, Will. And I think that might be me done for the time being. I'll pass over, is it to you, Will?
To me, mate, yes, that's right. Hi everybody, I'm just going to talk briefly about national programmes, so better known as All Stars and Dynamos. Obviously, All Stars has been a massive success over the last 4 years, so I'm sure you're all very familiar with that, working with 5 to 8 year olds. I'm going to repeat some messages that hopefully you've been receiving from the ECB over the last few months, but we've got some key dates coming up over the next 2 weeks. Firstly, the priority booking window is going to open this coming Tuesday, the 16th of March. So all participants from the previous 4 years are going to receive an email saying that they can go on and they can book onto a programme. So they'll, just like before, they'll put their postcode in, a whole list of local clubs will come up, and it will allow them to book onto those programmes. If you haven't got your programme onto ClubSpark, please do it as soon as you can. There is some things that we have to do behind the scenes before it can be seen on the ClubSpark system to the public. So for us to have a bit of a chance of getting you up and running for Tuesday, then yeah, please do that as soon as you can. There's a couple of changes in terms of the financial model this year that you may have heard about. Previous years, you've received £5 for every child that signs up to your programme. That's been doubled to £10 this year. And also for any child that signs up to your programmes, you will receive a £5 kit and equipment voucher that you can spend on clothing for your activators, or if you need to top up some of your equipment that you've lost over the last few years, that's there for you to spend as well. So that's a bonus for all clubs involved. There's a whole load of marketing resources available to you guys as well. There are obviously digital marketing resources, so if you need to go on Twitter or Facebook, then there's a whole host of things that there you can access yourself and personalise to just drive the sign-ups in your own area. Finally, some of you would have been banging your head against a brick wall over the last few weeks over the stripe system. The clubs who've had issues with this, you should know about it. The ECB should have been in touch with you, but stripes is the payment system that the ECB use. Think of them like a bank, so they need to work to some compliance laws. So they're asking clubs to verify their documents and prove the ID for it to be compliant with the rules. If you are having trouble, you should have received a few things from the ECB. If you haven't received them, then please get in touch with either myself and Brad. We've got access to the documents to walk you through the process and then refer you on if there is a big issue. But it does take a little bit of time, but you can overcome it. So just moving on to Dynamos. So Dynamos was due to run in 2020, but obviously was cancelled. If you think of All Stars as learning skills, then Dynamos is like almost learning the game. So it's targeted at 8 to 11-year-olds. We had some good numbers of clubs sign up last year, so hopefully we'll have the same again this year. They're working to the same timelines, so priority bookings are going to be opening on Tuesday the 16th. Financial models similar. The kids are paying £40, but this time the club gets £25 back. You receive kit to deliver the programme. There's the marketing support that there is with All Stars, but slightly different to All Stars is there's going to be some money can't buy experiences around the 100. So they're keen to try and link new Dynamos with the new competition that's being launched. So there'll be opportunities to get access to some tickets for both the kids involved, but volunteers at your club who are helping out with the programme. So that's a little bit of a carrot to get some people involved in it. Again, it needs to be uploaded to the Club Spark system, and it goes through the Stripes payment system as well. So they're all related there. So please have a look if you haven't got it onto your Club Spark programme just yet. Get that sorted out over the next couple of days, and then we can hopefully get you live for Tuesday's launch. Finally, for me on the national programmes, the training that we provide for all activators. So returning all-star activators are going to be required to do an online refresher course this year, which is new. And that's just to make sure that the philosophy of the programmes is still fresh in people's minds. Obviously, new activators are going to do the online programme and some face-to-face training as well, where we'll talk them through some of the activities and how the courses, the programmes might run. Now, those training dates are going to be released next week. So if you've got any activators or you're teeing anybody up to become activators, then please keep an eye out for those dates. I think they're going to come from myself and Brad individually. So just have a look out for our emails. And that's everything from national programmes. As I say, if you do have any questions about the Stripes or the Club Spark system, then please get in touch. That's me, Sam. I think it's Damian now with. Yeah,
I think that's
Over to you, Damian.
Oh, hello, can you hear me? Good evening, everybody. Just in terms of safeguarding, obviously in planning our return to cricket, it's obviously everybody's responsibility within the club to ensure children are kept safe. So for our welfare officers, which now handily are going to be called safeguarding officers, we do have courses running for them, and they are 100% online. The link is obviously on the slides and on our website as well. The dates are the 14th and 21st of April. And what I would stress is if you are having any problems in accessing those courses, or your safeguarding officers are having any problems, that obviously they get in touch, because obviously it's a key element of the club is having a trained safeguarding officer. Obviously, in best practice, we'd encourage all your coaches, activators, any officials and captains with under 18s playing in open age games should complete the Safeguarding Young Cricketers course, which again is online and free. On a call today with ECB, they said that they processed 8,000 fewer DBSs in 2020. So I'm assuming that out there are loads of renewals and new applications to be done. It's just to emphasise that we're here, we can help you with DBS renewals and applications. And in terms of guidelines, we can verify at the moment remotely. Some of our safeguarding clubs will have received an invite to sign up to the Safe Hands management system. And the number of clubs is growing for them to update their systems. If you've got any questions about how to do this once your invite arrives, there are loads of videos, online resources, there's a help desk, and obviously we're here to help if you need us. If you haven't received your invite, then don't worry, they are on their way, they are working through the list. And for all the safeguarding officers, Max from Beds and Mim from Hunts are planning a county safeguarding seminar, which is going to happen on the 23rd of March. And obviously all our safeguarding officers will be invited for them to have the opportunity to receive any updates and new information regarding safeguarding. Thank you.
Oh, jump in.
Right.
Right, so I'll introduce Graham now. Graham Simpson's from Team Beds and Luton, is a fountain of knowledge and really helpful to us at Cricket East, but no doubt we'll be able to share a lot of his knowledge and experience with you all as clubs as well. So I'll pass over to you, Graham, if you're there. Oh, dramatic. Are you there, Graham? Are you on now? There we go.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Sam, for the introduction. Yeah, if we can move on to the next slide. I thought I'd start by just giving a little bit of an overview, really, of some of the things that we're seeing in terms of features around the funding landscape at the present point in time. I mean, obviously, there are still a number of funds that are very much geared up towards supporting the COVID-19 pandemic response and coming out of the restrictions that we're currently in. That's particularly the case with Sport England funding, and I'll go on to talk about the Sport England funding that's currently available in a minute. We're also seeing, again, with Sport England, but not just with Sport England, with other funds as well, what's referred to as the levelling up agenda. I mean, if you listen to any sort of government presentations around policy, they talk about this levelling up agenda. But we're certainly seeing it in some of the funders that we work with, and again, particularly with Sport England, and particularly covering audiences that support the BAME communities, areas of high deprivation, those with a disability and or a long-term health condition. We're also seeing that it's increasingly important that you've explored and secured other forms of partnership funding. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the Sport England stuff I'll come on to in a minute. And also something else that you might want to think about, not necessarily so much with applications that you might rate to cricket or to Sport England, but if you're looking to submit applications to other funders locally and nationally, have a think about the support that your club can play in the COVID-19 recovery agenda. Or the local authorities will have COVID-19 recovery plans that they're developing and will be working through over the coming weeks and months. So think about the role that your club can play in the wider COVID recovery agenda around physical and mental reconditioning, because that may well provide you with some access to additional funding streams. And finally, just to say, it's not all about the best bid writers. I'm sure we've got lots of talented bid writers within our clubs. I know that for a fact. I've seen some of the people that are on the call tonight, and I know they're very good at writing applications. But it's not all about that. It's about making sure that you're resonating with the funder that you're applying to and what they're particularly looking to achieve with their funds. Yeah, if we can move on, Will, to the next. Okay, so I'll start with Sport England funding. So obviously this is a national funding pot, which any cricket club can apply into. Now, I did mention earlier that they're still very focused on the pandemic and the return to play agenda. So all of their funds really are linked into that at the moment. So I won't go through these in detail. I provided a link there. I'll just give you a flavour. There's a small grant fund available which provides up to £10,000 worth of not just revenue but also capital funding to support your club's return to play initiatives and needs. And there's additional support available for those in areas of high deprivation around covering fixed costs. So things you might want to think about are, if you're having to fund activity but the group that's taking part that you're generating an income from is a smaller group, then that's something that you could potentially secure funding for to cover the shortfall. If you're having to pay for additional hygiene and safety equipment around the COVID pandemic agenda, I don't know what the situation is with, for example, with cricket, with cricket balls. I know in league cricket, I played a lot of league cricket in the past, and you know each team has their own new ball for the start of each innings, but that might not be the case with midweek cricket, for example. 18, 20 over cricket on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night, where perhaps there would just be one ball used. Historically, well, I suspect under the pandemic that won't be allowed. So each club will have to provide its own new ball for that innings. So that's a potential additional cost that you could potentially get funded through the small grant funding. And if you've got additional training that you need to provide to your volunteers, if you're having to take on new volunteers just to help support your risk assessment plans around the delivery of cricket as we come out of the pandemic, and you need to provide some training to new volunteers, again, that could be funded through the small grant fund. Community Asset Fund. So this is Sport England's capital fund. A number of you I know on this call will be familiar with that fund and have used that fund and its predecessor in the past to secure significant capital funding to enhance your facilities. Well, at the minute, it's very much focused on the return to play agenda and around adapting your facility spaces to facilitate a return to play. When I was looking at this, I'm not entirely sure that it will really apply to cricket clubs at the present point in time. I mean, you're having to turn up already changed, aren't you? So providing additional space around changing probably isn't an issue. And if you've got a bar, there's probably a process that you follow in terms of the queuing up and people perhaps sitting outside and having a beer after the game. So there's not too many opportunities there perhaps at the minute, but what I would say is I would expect, as hopefully we come out of this pandemic, that it will go back to being the fund that it was before, and that's around providing capital funding to enhance your facilities. So if you have a capital funding project that needs some support, come and talk to us and we'll be able to support you with that. The third one, crowdfunding and Sport England. This is a really interesting one, actually. And this is a partnership between an organisation called Crowdfunder and Sport England. And it's all about encouraging sports clubs, particularly those that might fall outside of the eligibility around small grants in particular, being in areas of high deprivation going forward, to generate funding that's not traditional grant funding. The Sport England are very, very keen for other funding options to be explored. Now, the interest with this is that what Sport England are doing is they've said that whatever funding a club generates through its own crowdfunding initiative, which is basically where the club asks for support for a particular project, through its members, through their family and friends and the wider community that they operate within via an online presence, Sport England will match fund that up to a maximum figure of £10,000, subject to them approving your crowdfunding initiative, which ought to be a fairly straightforward thing to do. So we're starting to see some clubs, certainly in Bedfordshire, take that up. I see there's 2 or 3 on from Luton Town and Indians tonight, and I know they're just about to actually launch their crowdfunding initiative. What we have seen with some clubs, not cricket clubs but other sports, is there's a swimming club in Bedford, Modernian Swimming Club, that needed to raise some funds urgently, and over a 4 to 6 week period they raised 23,000, including £10,000 match funding from Sport England, just to cover the lost income from COVID, and not being able to run their learn to swim programs. So it can generate significant sums very, very quickly, if you do it right and you do it well. So I'd really encourage cricket clubs to look at that opportunity. We're here to help and support you with that. The final thing around Sport England funding, and this is just for Bedfordshire, so sorry if there are people here from Hunts, but Bedfordshire has been marked as a priority area, particularly the area around the U's. So if your club, your ground has encountered some damage as a result of the recent storms, Cara and Darcy, then there is funding available to help you with the repair and recovery costs of that. I don't know whether there are any clubs that run along or close to the River Ouse that have been affected by the recent storms, but if there is, then there's funding out there to help you recover. If you need help with that, then please do get in touch. Next page, Will. Other grant funding sources. I'm not going to go through these in detail. What I wanted to demonstrate here was, I've started with a page for Bedfordshire, but I have got some Hunts ones as well. Although I'm not an expert on the Hunts ones, but I can direct you to people that are. But don't just think about funding from ECB. Don't just think about funding from Cricket East. Don't just think about funding from Sport England. Look at other locally based funding options out there, and national as well, actually, but particularly locally, that you could potentially source funding from. And I've written 3 or 4 down on here, typed 3 or 4 down on here that I know have supported sports clubs regularly in the past across Bedfordshire. So the likes of the Whitson Tree Trust, the Still Family Trust, particularly support projects in Luton, still do. The Bedfordshire and Luton Community Foundation, which is the London Luton Airport Fund, they support projects in Luton, Central Bedfordshire and also Bedford. The Gale Trust, which is really a Bedford and surrounding area, the Harper Trust in Bedford Borough, and landfill tax funding as well. Some parts of Bedfordshire qualify. Apologies for the typo there with geography, just notice that. But if you're within 10 miles of an active operating landfill site, then there are capital-based projects to support capital-based funding to support projects that you might want to develop. And Team Beds and Luton, the Active Partnership, we're totally revisiting our children and young people initiatives, and we also have a Tackling Inequalities Fund as well. So then, do come and talk to us if you want to do some specific work around children and young people and around tackling inequalities, particularly around the audiences that I talked about earlier, the BAME communities, those living in areas of high deprivation, those with disabilities and long-term health conditions. Come and talk to us, because we may well have some funding that we can support you with. Next page, Will. Right, I've put on here some funding options for those of us here tonight who are based in Huntingdonshire. These have been sort of provided more for me through Living Sport, who are the active partnership for Cambridgeshire, Peterborough and Huntingdonshire. And the contact there, we've got her details at the end of this slide. There's 2 funds available through the Mick George, which again is a landfill operator. Historically, they did support projects in Bedford as well, and in Bedfordshire as well, but not anymore. But they do definitely in Huntingdonshire and Cambridgeshire in that area. They have a capital fund that supports projects up to a value of 50,000, with a maximum project value of 100k, administered through an organisation called Grantscape. Again, if you've got a facilities project that you're looking at, perhaps alongside a community asset fund application, an application into this fund may well generate some capital funding for you. They've certainly supported cricket clubs in the past. They also do have a much smaller sports fund, which is actually administered through Living Sport. Again, that's capital based up to £1,500, but they've supported lots of cricket clubs through that fund in the past to do small improvements. Look at your district councils and your parish councils. Huntingdon District Council, they've got a community chess fund that, and they have a particular remit around recreation and sport. Only a small amount available, but it all adds up. And the Huntingdon Freeman's Trust is another one that supports education, recreation and leisure. Now, they don't say on the website what the maximum amount is that they'll fund, but they will look at organisations with recreation and leisure and education. So think about the education element of the work that you do as well. Your coach development work, developing your volunteers. So if you're in the area served by Huntingdon Town Council, then again, that's another option that I would encourage you to look at. And finally, Living Sport. As with Team Beds and Luton, they're looking at their children and young people projects and initiatives, and also tackling inequalities issues as well. So please do make contact with them, because there may well be some project work and some funding available that they'd like to support you with. Next page, Will. And finally, contact details. So for Bedfordshire-based clubs, that's myself, and the email address is there. And for Huntingdonshire and Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, Sally is your contact up in that part of the world. So I can't remember what you said, Sam, about taking questions, but if we haven't got time now, then I would just encourage people to send an email through to me.
That's great, brilliant. Thanks so much, Graham. That's some brilliant knowledge and some really helpful hints and tips for clubs on some local funding streams other than the ones that they more regularly hear about. So thank you for coming on tonight and giving up your time.
You're welcome.
Good stuff, brilliant. Will, next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to talk through a few upcoming ECB funding initiatives. So a number of you may have benefited from some of the emergency grants and loans that the ECB have supported clubs with over the pandemic. And the next opportunity, I think that closes on the 15th. So we're coming up to the deadline on that. I know we've pushed that with a number of clubs. So thanks to all those that sent their applications in. They went straight to the ECB, and we know a number of clubs across Beds and Hunts were successful. So that's good to see. The next cab off the rank is this. It's the Creating Welcoming Environments County Grants Fund. Those of you that are familiar with previous grants that you might have accessed, similar to Get the Game On, it's similar to that type of thing, but it's an expanded project this time by the ECB. And we're looking at, like I said, the Creating Welcoming Environments is the main theme, with a number of different topics that might be appropriate for you and your club. There's going to be a great user guide that's going to be shared with clubs over hopefully the next 6 weeks when the new scheme is launched, and they'll be highlighting in that user guide what type of projects they're looking to see. Again, like I said, it's similar themes to before, focusing more around your facility and how we can improve them to make it's a bit more of an inclusive place perhaps for your members and outside visitors as well, if you like. So yeah, hopefully we'll have more information about that coming through soon, and once we do, we'll make sure that we send it out to you. Next we have Snap. So Snap are a local company, well, not a local company, they're a national company that focus on sponsorship, and they got in touch with us as well as all of the other Eastern Region counties, and they're also doing a lot of work down in London with those counties. around providing a service for clubs, if you like, to get themselves sorted and set up with their own Snap page. It does come at a small cost, but we've been really impressed with what they can offer. And we actually have a webinar offered to clubs to come on to and see what it's all about. It's essentially an online sponsorship management portal, allowing you to put it all in one place, a one-stop shop, and lots of different methods that you might not have previously explored for sponsorship. Will and Brad, I think, have already sent the invites out to clubs, and we've already got quite a good response and a number of clubs that have booked onto that. So please do either ask us if you don't have the information at the moment to log on, and if not, we'll no doubt be sending out some invites closer to the time just to remind clubs to log on. And we've also been kindly donated by Snap. They've got a prize draw for a couple of annual subscriptions to be free for clubs across Bedfordshire and Huntingdonshire that we'll have to pick out of a hat, no doubt, at some point. But yeah, it's a really, really good initiative. We've set up our own page to look at what we do and how we could enhance our sort of sponsorship approach. So we're looking into that, and definitely would recommend clubs, if it's not, and even if it is an area of strength for you, this is a really good one-stop shop to be able to upload everything that you do for sponsorship and be able to track it, and maybe take it to that next level. So I'd encourage that. Funds for Runs. So this is a new initiative from the ECB in partnership with LV Insurance. It's a bit more of a specific bid that you could put in, choose to apply for directly to the ECB. It's likely that the project will focus more on diverse communities, support for national products, women and girls, or disability cricket. So you might have an idea of how you could focus on one of those groups that I've just mentioned, and create a project to be able to get more people playing the game locally, and perhaps target a new audience that aren't already involved within your club. There's lots of information about this on the website, so please keep an eye on this, and if you haven't seen anything about it already, then maybe have a little look and see what you think. And if you're in an area, especially those urban areas, for some of those projects, but even if you're out there in the villages, there's different things that you might be able to do that would perhaps fit in with this Funds for Runs scheme. So yeah, have a look at that one as well. I think that's me. So we're back to Damian, I think.
Back to me. Right, so a couple of weeks ago we sent out a questionnaire just to find out about the landscape of women and girls cricket across Beds and Hunts, so thank you to all the respondents. We had 18 responses from the clubs across the two counties, and what came through really was that there was definite willingness to give women and girls the opportunities to play. So of those, 10 clubs were keen to sort of create super teams, and 13 clubs were willing to offer themselves as hosts of a festival. So if you haven't shared your views, there's still time, still be keen to hear what you've got to say. I appreciate it's difficult knowing how many girls we may get in through the door after the year we've had, but it'd be good to see where we are at the moment. So we're going to be creating clusters at under 11 and under 13 across Beds and Hunts, and we've got some meetings set up for that. We've also got entries for the under 11 and under 13 softball, Lady Taverners softball competition, and I think these are going to be run as a one-day competition across the two counties, and then perhaps bringing them together with Hunts, Beds and Cams to find a champion of champion. I've also been in touch with our surrounding counties to find out what clubs they've got who would be keen to play girls and women's cricket. And all the counties have been really positive with that. So I'm hoping to create kind of a directory that we can put clubs in touch with each other to sort of give the girls the most opportunity to play. And the motto at the moment within sort of women and girls participation is, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So what I would say was, along with other associations, we're keen to get women involved at every level of the game, both on and off the field. And with that in mind, we still have places on our Women's Only Foundation course. So if you have somebody within your club who you think wants to take their first step in coaching, then we'd really encourage you to do this. For clubs who are affiliated to us, there is a discounted price on the course of £50. So if there is anyone who would like to take that up, then please get in touch. We still have a few places left. Gosh, that was a bit fast, wasn't it? So that's me done.
Good work, right.
That was a round.
Bradley, it's your turn. I think it's you, Brad.
Here's me, yeah. I think I'm the last as well, aren't I? So, you know what they say, save the best till last. Right, just briefly on me. So, just talk about a couple of points that have come up recently regards coach education. There is a new support qualification coming out in April, which is replacing the old coach support worker. Well, I say the old one, the current one. It's called it's the ECB support coach. That is all geared up for being able to be delivered at clubs. It's 3 modules, 2 online, 1 face-to-face, 3 hours. So it's really kind of simple, easy, quick to deliver. So if you do have a glut of volunteers at your club that potentially don't want to commit to becoming coaches but are keen to help out and get involved and assist with coaching, all-stars, etc., please do get in contact with me or Will, because we are able to come out to your club and deliver them in a cost-effective and very kind of quick manner to get your volunteers upskilled if that's what they want to do. So that's coming out in April. I will be sharing some more information with you guys in the next week or so in terms of more details on that. So yeah, I'll be in touch. F1 courses. So we had 2. This has been a bit of a nightmare. So we had 2 F1 courses that were lined up for delivery last month. They obviously had to get postponed, and you can see the dates that they have been rearranged. Now, the venue that we're using, Bedford College, are okay for us to use it. We are just waiting on confirmation from ECB that they can run on those dates. The vast majority of people that were booked onto it remain booked onto it, but there are 2 or 3 spots still available on those courses. So as soon as I get the green light, hopefully in the next week or so, that we can run it on those dates, I will reopen the booking and send back out and hopefully get those last few spots filled up. We've got the women's only course as well that is running again end of April. We've currently got 5 places left on that. So if you do have ladies that are interested in becoming qualified coaches and are going to be working specifically in that area of the club, then there is a course that we can offer them at a discounted rate as well. F2, so nothing really to update from the last webinar we had. That is currently being tested and it will be piloted this summer. And it will be coming live hopefully at the back end of this year. So F2 is obviously the follow-on from F1. First aid, so we've got 3 courses lined up so far. One's full. We've got a course at Dunstable, that's full. We've got 1 place remaining at Peterborough, and we've got 7 still at Eton Stoken. Now, again, similar with the F1 courses, we are still waiting on confirmation from ECB that they can run on the dates that we have them running. We were told that that should be coming hopefully tomorrow. So we will know either way whether they can run or not, hopefully tomorrow. So obviously we'll communicate with those people that are booked on if unfortunately we have to push them back again, but kind of watch this space. And obviously if the demand is there and we can run them, we will offer more courses. Okay, next slide, Will. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to touch on iCoach Cricket. So with the season kind of fast approaching and as of the 12th of April, restrictions being lifted further and clubs, you know, kind of started to think about outdoor training, I just wanted to highlight that there is a resource out there for club coaches that they can readily use. which is iCoach Cricket. It really is a great resource. It's free. It's accessible to all. Content's constantly being uploaded. There's loads of things on there. You can download it onto your phone so you can use it out in the field. So if coaches feel like they're stagnating or want some new ideas on different sessions, then just point them in the direction of iCoach Cricket. Download it. It really is a really good resource to have. Okay. Last slide. So just on kind of general kind of volunteer support. If you do have people out there, whether it's officiating, grounds, volunteers, and they do want to upskill or they need support, this slide is more just highlighting that there is support out there. So please do get in contact with us if you feel, or if they feel they would need or would like support in relevant areas. So yeah, you know, kind of don't suffer in silence. If you need support and help, please do get in contact with us. Okay, that's me.
Top stuff. Thanks, Brad. Okay, so I think that's pretty much there or thereabouts from us this evening. Like I said at the start, apologies, it's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, perhaps a little bit of information overload from us all, but there's plenty of information out there and plenty we can follow up on if you do have any further questions. Our website's hopefully up to date and has all the information that you might need on the various topics. Just to reiterate, we'll share the slides and we're going to record this and pop it on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to rewatch and go over again, and hopefully that will send through some of the links, some of the email addresses and so on and so forth that you might need to follow up on any bits from the call today. We want to do these as regularly as they're wanted, hopefully every 6 weeks, 2 months, not to give too much of an overload, like I said. So hopefully you'll keep coming along and spread the word amongst other clubs as well, because we're really keen to engage with our clubs as much as possible and to support you as much as we can. But again, thank you very much for coming along tonight. Thanks to the panel and thanks especially to Graham for joining us this evening. If you do have any questions, pop them in the chat box now. We might be able to hang on for a couple, but we'll likely have to take them away for us given the time. And come back to you another time, but hopefully as soon as we can. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you all soon.